Hello, and welcome back to my channel. So then we opened this other show called Pirates, where I was playing this sea queen. I was hanging in the air like as a kraken queen with my big like tentacles. We opened that, let me just check, the 24th of March. So that was that happened all kind of quick.
The seaweed is always greener in somebody else's lake. You dream about going back up there, but that is a big mistake. Just look at the world around you, right here on the ocean floor. The coral reefs surround you. What more is you looking for? Something isn't quite right. What do you mean? I don't know. Something is wrong. How can you possibly be wrong? Be careful. Something is really wrong here.
Both poles and Pirates had a lot of flying involved, and we had a lot of problems with the flying system. Basically, every time something happened with the fly system, it took forever for it to get fixed because the people who knew everything about the rigging system were not from Doha, so they had to like be flown in from Germany, I think. So it was always such a hustle and such a setback for a couple of days, and we were still like half doing night shifts, half doing shows. So we had to perform shows during the day, but we also had to rehearse our new shows during the night. It was a crazy time. We were basically rehearsing being on stage or partying. As you can imagine from all of this, it was nothing like a normal theater experience where everything is just, you know, laid out. If you say the rehearsals are 6 weeks, the rehearsals are 6 weeks. If you say our premiere is on the 31st of March, it is on the 31st of March, no question. But that whole project was nothing like that. Everything was always a surprise. You were never sure what was gonna happen, but slowly but surely we all got used to it, and it was a really nice group of people. Everyone was so motivated. We were all getting along so well because it was such a weird life. We were bonding really great, and I love being on stage. I was quite sick of the night rehearsals after a while, I can remember, but I was living the life. Like I loved being there. So we had 2 shows up and running. I had my 1 solo show up and running. And then after that, we had a premiere of our duet show. So I had a duet show with my male lead singer, partner, colleague. He was Dutch as well, so that was really nice. So like around the end of March, beginning of April, we had like 4-ish shows up. So really things started to come together a little bit more. We had a 3rd show we were working on, which was Takeoff, which was this English couple that was traveling in a hot air balloon around different countries. Me and the male lead singer were the British couple, Mr. and Mrs. Sanders, and we were actually flying in a hot air balloon around them all above the stage as crazy as it sounds, that's what the life was. Yeah, it was this great colorful show of like all countries and all sorts of styles. It was, again, really hard to get it up because, as you can imagine, like having a show with a hot air balloon, there was, again, a lot of rigging and a lot of flying systems involved, and it still wasn't really working properly, so it broke down every few weeks, but we were all pushing through, and in the end, I think it was, let me just check, the 13th of April, we had our premiere of Takeoff. And right after that, my parents came to visit, which was really nice to have some family over and, you know, show them my life, because it was just so hard to explain to people how my life was at that point, what it was like working at a theater in a mall. So it was really, really nice to have my parents over and to have my parents see some of the shows. The end of the first contract came closer and closer, so that is where they kind of started asking, would you like to stay for another contract? And I did. I was like, I'm not ready yet here. We barely have all of our shows up yet, and I want to stay. So I think around that time I also decided that I was going to stay for another contract. And there was another solo show for me coming up, Paradise, which was more of like a pop ballads, power ballads kind of show. So that I premiered with that one on the 23rd of May.
Let me photograph you in this light, in case it is the last time that we might be exactly like we were before we realized we were scared of getting old. It made us restless.
And right after that, the first contract ended and we were going home for 2 weeks, I think, maybe 3 weeks, and coming back for another contract afterwards. So it was really nice coming home for a couple of weeks, back to the Netherlands, seeing my friends, seeing my family, all of that. But I was also really excited to start another contract. We were finally at a point where we were actually having shows up, and I just couldn't wait for the point where we just had all our shows up and running, and we would just get into like a show schedule with no rehearsals anymore. Basically that never really happened because when we came back we got into show schedule for a little bit, but we had another show to put up which was called Wild, and it was all about this professor who was like exploring this wildlife. I was a bug mom in the show. I was riding an elephant in the show. All the crazy things you can imagine, I did. Let me tell you a little bit more about the audience and about how weird it was for them to have live theater, because they weren't used to such a thing. So we really had to teach them a little bit how to respond to theater. Like, they didn't know that it's like normal to like clap or like cheer during a show. And at first that felt very weird because, you know, the reactions, the response was kind of lame. They loved it. You could see it in their eyes that they loved it, but they just didn't know how to express it. So that went like better and better over like the time we were there. But it took a little bit of time before, yeah, they kind of got used to the concept of live theater. And I remember that it was such a great thing to see how the kids enjoyed it, because they're just used to like spending their days with their nannies in a mall. And yeah, I think it was really good for them to see something creative happening and to see live theater and not like just looking at a screen, because they had all like big phones and iPads and all of the stuff you can imagine, but just like such a real experience of seeing theater. I think that was really good, and I'm really happy that we were able to, you know, give that to them. After we came back from our vacation, we put up this other show, and I loved Wild. It was just such an amazing, colorful, great show. We opened that on, let me see, by the end of July.
Wow! It's a real life! Something.
then by August, my other singing colleague opened his show and I sang the prayer with him in that. So by that time, I had like about 8 shows that I performed in at that point. And that is where we really started getting into this show schedule of just, you know, not really rehearsing at night anymore, but just doing shows. Like I did afternoon solo shows, and then at night we did 1 or 2 performances of our big shows. I really, really loved reaching that point where we would just, you know, day after day play shows, and I really loved working at the Mall of Qatar at that point. I have to say, life there was getting harder and harder because it's really not as much of a social life as you would have in like Germany or the Netherlands. We were basically all the time just with our group of people. Like I said, the girls I met on that first night that I instantly clicked with, we were like inseparable, is that the word? For that whole time we were there, and it was just such a great friendship, and it's what really helped me through the day sometimes, because it wasn't always easy to work in a country that is so different from Europe. So then by the end of September, my sister came to visit, and at that point I think we were in full show schedule, but something broke down again, of course, running gag. And I think we only did like 1 of the big shows, or like a different version of it. I can't really remember, but yeah, there was still some problems here and there going on. After that, we started rehearsing on another show called Fantasia, and this show was actually made a little bit more by us, or like at least our dance captain and our vocal captain. We had a lot of say in it, and yeah, basically they kind of created the show. And there was a big Disney princess thing in it. There was this big Mary Poppins section in it. There was this like film section in it, and we worked all really hard on it to get that show on, because it was more of a thing that was created by the performers as well as the creative team. It really felt like our baby, and there were a lot of bumps in the road again. I remember that we had a lot of stuff put together, and when we did a run through, basically the bosses were like, okay, this is a mess, this is too much, and we decided to just like pick half of it and make it into 2 different shows. And then we're like, okay, once we come back after Christmas and New Year's, we're gonna put the other half up. By the end, we got the show up. I was Elsa in one part of the show, and I really felt like a celebrity, because that is something like the Arabs really know, and especially the kids, like they love it. So they were all like, Elsa, Elsa, like calling my name. And by the end, we went into the audience and they could take pictures, and they were like all like pulling my arm and wanted to take pictures with me. And it was like this, yeah, I just felt like a celebrity for a little bit, which was really cool. So we performed that show, we premiered it, and that is when we left to go on our Christmas break. And then after New Year's, I was still at home, and I was supposed to fly back in like by the end of that week. And we got an email that basically the whole production, the whole thing was canceled. They were not gonna put on shows anymore, so we were basically all fired, which was a really weird ending to a really weird and great year. I thought that I was gonna stay there for another half year, and yeah, things weren't supposed to be that way. And we still had our stuff there because we were supposed to come back. So we came back there for another 3 days and had another big party and packed up our stuff and basically said goodbye to everyone. And we didn't get to play a last show, and the premiere of Fantasia had been our last show, which was a really weird ending. Yeah, in the end, I'm just so grateful for the opportunity I got there. I really became more confident there. I had so many opportunities. I was like this leading lady in so many different shows, in so many different styles, in so many different languages, and I went on this adventure all by myself, so I learned a lot from it, and I really grew there as a person, and I met the most amazing people, the creative team as well as the performers. Such a great adventure, so I am super grateful and thankful that I got that opportunity, and I will take that with me forever, and those memories will never go away. So yeah, that is basically my story about Doha, Qatar and working there as a singer. I hope you enjoyed watching. In the next video, I will tell you all about the job I did after that, working on a cruise ship as a featured singer. Make sure to tune in for that one. So if you don't want to miss that video, make sure to subscribe and hit the notification button. And I'll see you in the next video. Thank you so much for watching. Bye.